I don't come down either way, but I think you could make a strong point for Dennis's.
Right, so that it implies that the relationship with God is actually what enables people to have the strength to stand up against the tyrant.
Yeah. If you think of the Nuremberg trial, they didn't actually have a basis for what they were saying. There's no international law.
Right.
They were reaching, and maybe the same thing is intuitively they know.
Well, that's certainly what Solzhenitsyn thought about the Nuremberg trials, is he believed that the fact that the Nazi atrocities were regarded as wrong, independent of cultural context. He thought that was a signal achievement of the 20th century because it reestablished not so much the existence of good, but definitely the existence of evil. And that was something I found unbelievably convincing, because I thought, well, you've got a real conundrum here. It's like, was what the Nazis did evil or not? Because those are the alternatives. And if it wasn't, it's like, okay, well, you can move ahead on that presumption, or you can accept that it was evil in a transcendent sense, because that's what the Nuremberg trials were about. And then the terrible implication of that, in some sense, is that if evil genuinely exists, then its opposite genuinely exists, because it's not going to exist without its opposite. And so as soon as you accept the reality of the evil of Auschwitz, you're in a metaphysical world in some sense, because you have to simultaneously posit the existence of a transcendent good that's at least the opposite of that. And part of what I've been striving for 40 years, I would say, is to identify what is the opposite of the spirit that produced Auschwitz. And some of it Solzhenitsyn detailed out so nicely. It's the spirit of truth, and Frankl, it's the spirit of meaning. And I think you can make a strong case that it's the spirit of love. And it's some amalgam of those three things, and that doesn't exhaust it. And it's the spirit of play and voluntary association and freedom, all things that are stressed in the biblical narrative. And
where there is no vision, a people perisheth, as in Proverbs. And I think that's very important, this notion of, contemplation. We'll come to that in particularly chapter 3, but this sense of a vision of goodness as having an inspiring quality. And
it is a vision too, and not just a mere verbal conceptualization, right? Which is why the artistic endeavor is so important, and the architectural endeavor, because it's not merely propositional, that vision. One of the things I learned with my students and with my clinical clients was that, and I helped them do this, was to help people develop a literal vision for their life. It's like, okay, if you could have what you wanted to arm you against the slings and arrows of fate, let's say, or to at least defend you against it, in principle, if you could have what you needed and wanted, what would that look like? That's a kind of prayer.